Hello, my name is James Hook, Deputy Principal of Tocal College, and I'd like to welcome you to our Virtual Open Day presentation. The main presenter will be Ian Noonan, a lecturer here at the college, and he's well suited to provide you with information, he himself being an ex-student and a Dux while he was here. He then went and worked in the northwest of the state as a contractor and as a station hand, or as they refer to as a jackaroo, before becoming an overseer. We were then fortunate enough for Ian to return to Tocal as the Tocal dairy manager. And during this time, we recognised his abilities as a trainer, and he began delivering short courses around the state and then working with our youth education students. Finally, we were fortunate enough for him to become a lecturer, and during this time has also been a student association staff representative. So he's well placed to talk about careers, about Tocal courses and about student life. During his part of the presentation, he will talk about the history of Tocal, but I would also like to acknowledge the original custodians of this land, the Guringai clan of the Wannerua Nation, whose stewardship took place for many, many years before European arrival. And we respect the care that they have showed, and we also extend our respect to their elders past and present, and to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who may be watching this presentation. At the end of the presentation, I will come in and present some information on fees and on financial support available for students. There will also be an opportunity for those listening and watching to ask questions about the presentation. Thank you, and hope you enjoy this presentation.
Thanks, James, and thanks for the introduction, and welcome everyone to Tocal. And today, the talk for the virtual Open Day is not just about Tocal for me, it's also about careers in agriculture. And just from myself being an ex-student from years ago, and just the career paths I've had and the many doors that a possibility for opening with various careers in agriculture, it's a great place and a great organisation to get involved with to start your journey with agriculture. Just going through the slideshow that we have for you, just to start with, and we believe it's very important that students that are part of the college also aware of the history of Tocal, and you'll see on the slide that we have now, the history of Tocal has been documented way back, right back to as James introduced, with the Guringai clan, the Wannerua people, right through to C.B. Alexander. And the reason the college is here is C.B. Alexander left the college and the land here, and it was his dream for the college to be one day a place of learning for agriculture and young people. And once it was open and became that, with that in 1965, the college opened, and right through to today we still uphold those traditions and those workings and training students for a career in agriculture and on the land. A little bit about the resources we have, and I guess that's what sets Tocal apart, is the fact that it's very hands-on and practical, and we have the farms here for students to put the subjects they learn and the skills they learn to actually put them into practice. So the overall size of the farm is about 2,200 hectares, about 1,400 beef cattle. Then there's research going on at the moment with our southern multi-breed trial going on, as well as our own Rangus herd. Up to and around 300 milking cows, and the size of the herd is expanding over the next few years. Approximately 110 Australian stock horses, which are used for the stock horse course, as well as plant horses for our own agricultural production course. 250 to 300 Dooney ewes at Bonavista, which are only a small flock, but it's a good sized flock for our students to gain valuable skills and knowledge within the management and skills involved with sheep. And out at Numarella, we have 85,000 free range laying hens, so there's always a fair bit of work to go on out there as well. In recent years, the bee side of Tocal has really increased, and there's about 250 hives that are on college at any one time, and students are involved in some of the processes around with the bees. One of the good things, and we'll talk a little bit about, and people might like to ask more questions later about, is the employment prospects. And the great thing about agriculture and in research from our ex-students from years gone by is the great range in positions and jobs that students find themselves in. One of the great things about agriculture, there's so many different pathways that people can go on, different doors that will open, from stock and station agents to being in agribusiness to station hands, farm managers. There's so many different doors that will open. A lot of our students find after a few years of getting out there and working, which is probably a lot of the reason a lot of students come here, is their interest in that hands-on practical ability to working on farms. A lot of students may go on and study further at university, or study further, and as different doors open, they can find themselves in many varied careers. So that's the great thing about agriculture. Myself, when I came through Tocal, never ever thought I would have been in a situation where I'm actually teaching, but as I went through my career, various doors opened, and here I am today actually teaching students about agriculture. So it's a great industry to get involved in. We have a few main courses for our youth education to look at, and we'll try and discuss and give a brief overview of each course. For more information, please feel free to ask a few more questions a little bit later, but we'll try and get a little bit of an understanding of each of the course. Firstly, the first year course is our Certificate 3 in Agriculture, Agricultural Production Program. We also have a Certificate 3 in Performance Horse, which is a horse breeding and training program. Students may then go into our Certificate 4 in Agriculture, and we also run for our youth education a Diploma in Agriculture. As well as the national qualifications seen on the previous slide, Tocal prides itself on going beyond any of those qualifications. And that's what you saw, the resources we have here at Tocal. And a big part of Tocal is getting our students ready to go and work on the land and work on farms and be employee ready. So beyond those Certificate 3 in Agriculture, students also will receive a Tocal Special Award. So that's basically a stamp from Tocal to say those graduates are ready to go out there and work and have achieved beyond their Certificate 3. So that's from working on prac work with feedback from supervisors and also off-campus cooperators. Reports are given back on students to say, yes, they have those abilities and also those personal attributes that they're ready to go out there and actually work. And it's a really good thing for students to actually strive towards, with a few of the extra things, including our skills manual. And a lot of these things that we're training in are from employer feedback, and also through ex-students, and to see what exactly it is the industry is requiring of our students, and that's what we train towards. So it's very important that staff and everyone involved in the college keeps up to date with what's happening in industry. Part-time courses, we also have our rural and dairy traineeships, and again there's a Certificate 3 in agriculture, a Certificate 3 in dairy production, and a Certificate 4 in agriculture as well for trainees. The traineeship is basically for students that have full-time work on properties, dairies or rural properties, and want to continue on with their qualifications and can do so in coming to Tocal in block programs to finish their qualifications. Other courses, here at Tocal, there's a lot of courses and a lot of different things that Tocal do. So we do a lot of other industry courses and adult training as well. And as you can see by the list, there's a lot for precision agriculture, forklifts, working at heights, chainsaws, tractors. So there's a lot of different courses that we're running, and they will vary on demand. And on our website, you can see where some of those may be scheduled to run. We also run through home study programs, a diploma in agriculture and a diploma in conservation and ecosystem management. So just a little bit more detail on each of the subjects. So the course that a lot of our students may be applying for is our Certificate 3 in Ag Production. And the way we run that course is to make it a really good mix of hands-on work as well as in the class theory, problem-based learning, where students will come up with a bit of a problem that they may have. That could be a paddock that needs pasture improving, or a fence line that needs designing, or various things like that. Students will work in small groups and come up with problems, cost it out, and all those sort of things that are important in it. And then aligned with those units is the actual practical skills. So with fencing, they'll do fence designs and the principles behind fencing, but also to pass that unit, students have to get out there and actually build fences and demonstrate skills that they have in fencing, and that goes along with all of our subjects that we run. So agriculture, very practical subject, obviously. So a lot of our units are practical. There is classroom time, and it's important for prospective students to be aware, and this comes from feedback from industry, that as well as being good on the farm and having all those skills, that there are times when students and employees need to be able to either enter data or actually strap themselves to a computer and actually get in and do that sort of work as well. So our classroom time is just as important as the time that students will send out in the practical sections. I mentioned skills training, so we have a list of skills that students will work through, and they range from things where tractor driving, attaching 3-point linkage implements, catch and saddle a horse, cattle work, sheep work, all those sort of things, as well as doing those skills on our sections, and the beef section and dairy students are also rostered on there to continue on and actually work as if they were employed on those farms. And that's where we get valuable feedback. Students get valuable feedback on their performance when they're working on that. Not only our normal Tocal farms, but also on our off-campus cooperators. So we have cooperators where we'll send students for work experience, and those cooperators are quite aware of our students and what skill level they have, and they'll also give us valuable feedback on how they go on those various places. We encourage students to do individual studies, and we also do a lot of tours up into the northwest on cropping tours and various things like that, and sheep tours. We encourage students to do extra work and community work, as well as doing any other extracurricular activities they might actually do. Some of those extra activities that we often run on weekends and various things, we often do a bison school for horse training. We do motorbike lessons. There's leather work at times, wool classing. So we have a trainer come down from TAFE and put students through their wool classing certificate, as well as other activities that we come off occasionally. Just a quick overview of some of the case study examples you can see on the screen there. So it's very ranging in subjects that we do, and we try to cover all things that are important and that's the key with the Certificate 3 course. It's a very broad ranging course, as you can see by the subjects. So it's there involved to give students a taste of lots of different areas in agriculture they may not have seen before. Students often come here that have got a real interest in beef cattle, but you can see by the time they go through a lot of those subjects, and we do work with sheep and on the dairy and all those sort of areas, students become well-rounded in a lot of the different subjects that they're interested in, and sometimes go into a completely different path that they may have thought when they started in Cert 3. Practical work examples, you can see on the different sections. It's basically, as I said before, those students, when they go into those sections, obviously there's training involved, but they're there to work whatever's actually happening on the day. So over at the dairy, if they're sowing pastures or they're fencing, that's what's happening that day, as well as obviously milking and feeding livestock. Same as the beef section, and with the sheep, it depends on what's happening that week, and students will go along with those areas. The Certificate 3 in Performance Horse. So students that are selected to come into the Performance Horse course, basically, again, it's very much still an agricultural based subject course. So students, you'll see there on the slide, there are quite a few different subjects there which have that orientation to agriculture. So as well as doing our horse breaking and training and those horses throughout the year, and they're also doing a lot of subjects related to horse nutrition. You can see there's fencing, foal handling, pastures for horses. Obviously all those subjects do have more of a horse slant to them. However, there is all those, they'll also learn to drive tractors, chemical training, fencing, all those sort of things that are important to have all those skills for working on any horse property. A lot of our students may then also go on and do Certificate 4 in agriculture and have that agricultural base with that horse background. Again, prac work, students on the horse course will do a lot of the prac work, learn all those skills as mentioned before. Also encouraged to do individual studies, extra work and community work. The other course offered here at Tocal is our Certificate 4 in Agriculture. So the important thing to understand with Certificate 4 in Agriculture is it's a management-based course. So very much our Certificate 3 courses are very much doing courses for working on farms, and the difference is with our Certificate 4, that's our step up to farm management. And you can see that in a lot of the listing of a lot of the subjects there on the screen. More things like staff supervision and actually costing and budgeting, a lot of the things we do on farms. So that's a big major part of the difference. So for students that may have done their Certificate 3 in Ag and have got that good background and a good practical background, it's a great next step to then go on to our Certificate 4 in Agriculture and have that sort of management side behind it as well. It is possible for students that may have already done their primary industries and that to be a direct entry into our Certificate 4 program as well. As well as that, students that are very self-motivated whilst doing their Certificate 4 in Agriculture, they have the opportunity to do their diploma in agriculture. So these study programs for these competencies are very independent, and a lot of it's online study, but obviously there's the staff around the college to assist get through those units. So a lot of these units would be done in students' own time. So so as well as doing their Certificate 4, students need to be very motivated to continue on with their diploma in agriculture. The great thing about a student that may go through to their Certificate 3, Certificate 4 and a diploma in agriculture, if they're looking to study further on at university, various universities will give some standing to that diploma in completing a degree course later on down the track. So there's a very good opportunity to finish the college at that point. Which brings us to the next slide, which is that pathways to university. So I guess for a lot of students, and it's great following students' progress once they leave college. And as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, a lot of students come to Tocal because they have that love of working in the land, working with livestock, cropping, operating machinery and those sort of things. So we do find a lot of our students, once they leave college, really keen to get in and do that kind of work on properties, all around Australia and working all over the place and all different types of places. A few years down the track, a lot of students that get to a point where they feel like they may want to continue their education, and so there are pathways to university. So some students may do it straight from Tocal, some may do it a few years down the track, and matriculation into a lot of those courses varies, and what you've done at Tocal is acknowledged at a lot of those universities. So there's more information on that from the various universities involved, and also on our website. So there's great pathways, and I guess that just backs up what I was saying before with the great thing with agriculture is just that the career opportunities are so vast that often the likes and the interest that students had when they first came to Tocal is sometimes a completely different pathway that they may follow further on down the track. So the great thing about agriculture. Recognition of prior learning. So we give students credit for any courses or any work they may have done prior to coming to Tocal. I mentioned earlier about our Certificate 4 program. Students that have a good farm base and good practical experience, because they'll miss that practical experience they get in Cert 3, have done primary industries at school, may be able to apply to be a direct entry into Certificate 4. For those students that think they're in that area, we'll get those students in for an orientation week, and we'll do just an assessment on your skill level to see that there's not too much that you've missed out on in our Certificate 3 program, which has a lot of that agricultural background and skills in a wide range of different subjects. So so if feels that that's suited to you for a Certificate 4 direct entry, through your application process and interviews, we can look at that a little bit further. One of the good things about Tocal, and it's important to remember, so I've just spent a while talking about the various courses. A big part of Tocal isn't just the courses and the Certificate 3, it's the 1 or 2 years that students are here. In those years when, after leaving school and before starting and going into the workforce, they're very important years. So one of the great things that Tocal has is our mentoring and our tutor program for our students, and the student welfare programs that we have in those couple of years, or that year when the students have first left home. So what we do a lot with our students is we actually work in small student groups. So a lot of that problem solving that we had before, students will actually work in small groups. And a lot of these things comes from feedback from employers, where in a lot of our job applications, we'll see that students are asked to either work as part of a team or sometimes work unsupervised. So that teamwork is obviously very important. So and that's why we put students into case study groups, and like any groups, sometimes some groups get along really well, some groups don't get along as well as they're trying to solve those problems. Part of our job as tutors is to mentor students through that, and hopefully give students those tools that they need for when they get out into the workforce and confronting similar problems. So as a tutor, so for myself, so for our first year program, I'll have 10 students that are in my tutor group. So they're students that I guess they would come to see me if they needed any advice or in passing subjects or any other work or anything involved in the college. As their tutor, I'm often the go-between for the parents if they want to find out how their students going here at Tocal. They can send me an email or contact me, and we go through that. So I guess we take that little bit more of an interest in those particular students in our tutor program. We'll write feedback reports and so forth in that area. We have a full-time student welfare support officer for students. We have professional counselling and mediation service available for students as well. Another important part for our students, we have a student association. So they're students that are elected each year onto our association, which are involved in organising activities. And there's a few staff that are representatives, and our role on that student association is to, I guess, mentor and help facilitate students. So they organise the activities, but we're there to assist to make sure things try to run fairly smoothly so we can get those activities happening. Again, student life, students are here. Sometimes students, a majority of our students are on campus and live on campus. So there's so many different things for the students to have and to do if they're here on weekends, and it's all a big part of it. And that student life is a big part in years to come. Students definitely remember about Tocal. So we have the swimming pool. The student association organises functions and sporting activities. We have common rooms that we'll be able to show on a bit of a virtual tour a little bit later on. Students in the last few years have organised a local sporting competitions with regards to a touch football team. Students that have an interest in sport, we like to encourage that for students to continue, and we can align them up with a local sporting team in Maitland or Patterson to continue on with that. So it's important for us. We try to organise as many activities in that to keep students busy and have activities to do after hours, because Tocal, as I said before, the Certificate 3 is one part of it, but it's also the 2 years that students are here and they're growing up in those 2 years, which is very important. As far as the student life, there's a student welfare support officer, as we mentioned before. We have residential supervisors here. We have duty officers that are here at night. And there's quite a few staff that live on site and on the farms as well. So there's plenty of support here for students after hours. Again, just as part of the student life at Tocal, again, it's important. Our reputation is very important to us for students as going forward. Obviously being here since 1965, and a lot of ex-students out there, so and through our alumni, and that students have a lot of involvement, and ex-students with the college in these days. So we obviously follow those normal legal obligations. We have a demerit point system for students that for any misdemeanors or anything that students might do wrong. And if students did receive more than 10 demerit points, they may be suspended from the college, and before coming onto the college they'll do a show cause interview where in front of a panel of staff they'll be asked to show that they're here for the right reasons to continue on with the course and get an education in agriculture. We have students here from 16 onwards, so there's no alcohol on campus, and any of those areas that are looked at with underage drinking are dealt with accordingly. Students are able to have vehicles on site, so we take that very seriously as well, and we need students to behave responsibly in their vehicles. Again, any misdemeanors with their responsible vehicle use, students may have their keys taken from them and asked not to bring their vehicle back. Positive behaviour, so for when students do the right thing, so we get a lot of students who go and assist down at the dairy on weekends and do other jobs if to assist with carving or anything like that, or any other jobs that are going on as well, and certificates of appreciation will be sent to those students for doing that, and it's something that they can keep to show that a bit of a record of their extra work, as well as receiving spending vouchers at the student shop for their awards. We are fairly isolated here, I guess, but there is students that see a responsibility to organise transport to and from the college. However, we do have assistance with duty officers. As you can see, there is a restricted bus service that comes through to Tocal. There's trains from Maitland. And usually in the first couple of weeks, students may be a little bit stressed about that, and if they're wanting to get home of weekends, there's staff that live in Maitland that are able to give students a lift into the train station if they need to get home. Usually after 2 or 3 weeks of students being here at the college, with finding friends and so forth, usually they work those sort of transport things out fairly well, so it's not too much of a problem as the year goes on. But one of the big things that we do ask for students, and we encourage, and it's part of learning in the workforce as well, is that communication. So we really encourage students, if they've got any issues or any stress with anything, whether it be transport or anything else, to actually come and talk to us and communicate with any staff or our welfare officer in any of those areas. So with Tocal as being part of the Department of Primary Industries, and as seen the importance in training young people into careers in agriculture for staff and into the future and the future of agriculture, there's a great infrastructure investment from the department into Tocal. So there's a lot of different programs that have been, and a lot of with the upgrading of the college. You can see on the slide there's been quite a lot of money spent on updating our bathrooms and so forth. With the introduction of the Southern Multi-Breeds program, our livestock handling facilities throughout the college have been upgraded quite a lot. Just basically around the college, with our traffic management and air conditioning in the different areas has also been a large investment, and this investment continues on. Our Plan B project with our bee training program has had a huge boost with investment as well, and that's a large part of the college going forward as well with that side of it. So thank you for listening to that part of the presentation. I'll hand back to James now, and a little bit later on I'll take you for a virtual tour around the actual campus so that we can actually see the rooms and the campus side of it and the common rooms from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ian, and I'm sure everyone viewing this presentation can see Ian's interest and enthusiasm in agricultural careers and in our students at the college. So hopefully all that you have seen and will continue to see today will encourage you to continue with an application at Tocal, and if that is the case, you'll be able to follow the procedures on this slide. It does look fairly complicated, but let me just assure you that the main thing is, if you're able to do an application online, then we will pursue your application and remind you of all the next steps. So most people will start with that, an application online. Some people might just get in touch with the college and ask for some more information. In that case, again, we will reply back and just guide you through all the steps for your application. Towards the end of the year, towards the end of October for the ag course and middle of December for the performance horse course, we will be able to start offering places, and that will also include the enrolment process, and so also more forms will be sent to you then, but again, we'll guide you through each step of the way there. So here we have some information on fees for 2021, and fees usually only go up by CPI each year. so only by a small amount. The main fee is the board and lodging, which you can see there is about $9,500 for the year. There is also a fee, tuition or student fee to a maximum of $2,190. But that will vary depending on your smart and skilled eligibility for a concession or an exemption, and there's more information on that in a moment. Other fees, depending on your course, will vary from $2,500 to $3,500 and slightly more for the horse breeding and training program due to saddlery and tack and equipment such as that. We do require a fee deposit, and the first instalment is due in mid-December and the second and final in mid-January, and I do appreciate that they are difficult times to find those deposits, but we do ask for them because it's important for students to be looking forward and trying to work out what their fee responsibilities are in advance. We'd much sooner have those conversations about whether there is difficulty in paying fees at that time of the year rather than during the year when the course has already begun and a student's feeling that financial pressure. And just a little note there at the bottom that most of our students are eligible, or a good proportion of them eligible, for youth allowance, and you can see that that's a reasonable amount, up to $455 per fortnight, and some also eligible for rent assistance. I did mention that tuition fee, and that is determined according to Smart and Skilled pricing. So Smart and Skilled is the New South Wales government's vet system, and it is how they support and subsidise training. They do provide a capped number of subsidised places to each RTO and for their students that come from different regions. So there is a cap on that for Tocal, but we've been very fortunate in the way that we've managed that, and with help from New South Wales DPI, so that has rarely ever been a consideration. So the main thing is to apply for a place at Tocal, and then we can work together to work out if you are eligible for a concession or an exemption to that Smart and Skilled fee. We can also see there that the government calculate the qualification price, what their subsidy will be, and the remainder is the student fee that I spoke of, up to a maximum of $2,190. So just some information there on how you can go about seeing if you're eligible for a Smart and Skilled subsidised place, and from our experience most students that are applying at Tocal are. It's usually an extraordinary circumstance if they're not. You can also go on to their website and into the course finder to have a look at what the fee estimate will be. But as I said, it will be a maximum of $2,190 for those Certificate 3 courses. So Smart and Skilled understands that there needs to be additional support for disadvantaged students, and in particular Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students are exempt from that tuition fee, and eligible students with disabilities are also exempt from those fees. Our administration staff can help you with providing the evidence needed to claim those exemptions. Students are also potentially eligible for concession fees, and primarily at Tocal it is those students that qualify or that receive an Australian government benefit or allowance such as youth allowance. And if that's the case, then that $2,190 fee is reduced to just $240. So a good saving there. And again, our staff, administration staff, are able to help you to provide the evidence necessary to claim that concession. As I'd mentioned in an earlier slide, youth allowance is a very valuable support for our students, and quite a large proportion do qualify for that. it's important for students to start investigating their eligibility early. So to go into the Youth Allowance website, and some personal details are required to set up an account, and as you proceed through that application, then other additional details such as parental income, etc. may be required. But it is important to start that process early to give yourself the best chance of being eligible and awarded youth allowance at the start of next year. Tocal's very fortunate to have a very generous scholarship program, and it includes support from past students, from alumni, from local families who have long been supportive of Tocal, from local businesses and industry groups. And we can see some examples on the next few slides. So again, a large number of scholarships provided across the college, and each year between 50 to 60% of students are eligible for a scholarship of one size or another. And we can see that they range from $1,000 up towards $5,000. Some of these scholarships do have particular criteria, but most of them are general scholarships which are awarded on financial need and with a consideration of their suitability to the course. We have an independent scholarship selection panel that meets with the past deputy convening that, and they allocate those scholarships accordingly. As I said, some have particular criteria. For instance, the GRDC scholarship is for second year students that are interested in the cropping industries, or for instance, the local land services, which are for a student interested in sustainable land use and are prepared to present a project to members of the local land care. So in general, there's one application form available on our website, and that one form is used to apply for all these scholarships. Very valuable supporters to Tocal are the Royal Agricultural Society Foundation, who provide scholarships not only to Tocal students but to young people in studies across the state, and those scholarships are valued up to $6,000, and we've been very fortunate each year to have 3, 4, 5, 6 students allocated those scholarships. So they are determined independently of Tocal, so best to go onto their website to have a look at those and to find out more information about how to apply. So I hope the presentation and the information that's been provided by Ian and myself is useful to you, and I hope it encourages you to consider a career pathway that starts at Tocal. If you are interested in seeing what we're up to, please keep a look out on our Tocal Facebook page. We try and keep it updated as much as we can. Admittedly, during COVID, it's been a little bit quieter than normal, but I'm sure you'll see that there's still been plenty happening with our students on campus and lots of training. And our website, which was updated a couple of years ago, has lots of useful information on it. It will also include this material available at a later date and other material relevant to our virtual open day. And certainly I hope that's helpful to you. But by all means, if you have any questions, please contact the college through the details available on our website, and a member of staff will get back to you as soon as they can. And although this has been a virtual presentation and virtual tours available, we're really hoping that sometime soon, perhaps before the end of the year, we'll be able to accept people for personal visits. either as individuals or in family groups. So look forward to hopefully meeting you soon, either as a guest or maybe as a future student. Thank you.